Thank you all for tuning in to yet another episode of Storytime with Unky Judas. Yes, it is part 4 of random celebrities that I have had the chance to smoke weed with. I guess this would be technically episode 6, I think. Anyways, we're almost all the way through our Donkey Kong quest. The objective was to see if we can make it all the way through Donkey Kong by telling a bunch of random drug stories. I don't even know how this whole thing got started, but we're almost to the end. We also have, once again, joining us our in-studio guest, Mud Mustard, who kind of started this whole thing about the different celebrities who I've met and had the chance of rubbing elbows with. So, without further ado, here is part 4, how I came across the Secret Chiefs 3. More than once, actually. Part 4 is one of my all-time favorite bands, and I can't just say this is just one guy. This is the whole band, the Secret Chiefs 3. As I was explaining to you earlier, Trace Pruitt, the guitarist of Mr. Bungle, has his side project that I think is still active, and I've seen them multiple times. For a while, they were very actively touring, and so we saw them, me and my friends got to see them like 3 times in the space of a year or 2, and they're the kind of cool group that actually hangs out by their merch table and talks to their fans. So we kind of felt like we were sort of starting to get to know them after like a couple of shows. They were starting to recognize us. And I think it was like the 4th time we saw them, they were headlining their own show finally. Because usually they'd be coming through. They were opening up for a bigger act, one of which was also Les Claypool. And we still didn't get to meet Les. Man, I've seen him on his own projects, and I've seen Primus more times than I can number, and can't ever track that guy down.
He's elusive.
And the one time that my friends went to go see Les Claypool's Fearless Flying Frog Brigade without me, they all got to meet him.
How rude.
And since then, I haven't even heard of that project coming through on tour ever again. Because they only played for, that short period of time, to my knowledge. Anyways, Secret Chiefs 3, they were headlining this show. A local band, Ether, was the only band playing. And because they were headlining this, they kind of could do a little bit more of like what they wanted and had free reign over that green room. You know what I mean by the green room? Basically just the back area where the bands hang out.
Your VIP.
Right. And so we had talked to them a little bit before their performance, and then after their performance, we kind of hit them up as they were packing up their gear. Because it was a smaller show, so they don't have people taking their stuff down for them at this one. And the green room's just right off the side of the stage. And so they actually said, hey, when we're done moving our gear, do you guys want to hang out after the show? And I was like, yeah, let me help you move your gear. And so, yeah, we helped him. I was with Fart Eyes and his wife, Mein Schwester, and Schmakeel, and Maximus, and I think Chuglet. So we had quite the group of goons. And they let all of us come back and hang out with them. It was fucking cool. And so, again, we had our weed. We thought, this time, several of us had some, and we had brought a decent amount. And this was still back in the swag days when...
Those were dark days.
Yeah, it was few and far in between when you would actually see Chronic. But we had an abundance of it this time. It wasn't just like a bowl or two. And we were actually hanging out.
There was only an abundance of it.
So...
It never ended.
I forget which one it was. I believe it was the bass player who... When he's like, yeah, what do you guys got? And we're like, oh, we just got the swag. He is immediately like, oh, really? You guys come to smoke out the band and you brought swag? All right. Here's what we're going to do. You thought you were going to come here to smoke the band out. The band's going to smoke you out instead. And we're just like, oh, well, fuck. I mean, not going to fucking argue there. And he's like, hang on a minute. And he starts rummaging through his shit. We start talking to, I believe it was the keyboardist / violinist. And he put on a very impressive performance, especially that night. So we get to bullshitting with him. And I remember Trey was just kind of all about the room. I don't remember. He seemed very preoccupied that evening. And they offered us the 3.2 beer, because that was back when we had 3.2 beer. And we're just like, oh, yeah, how you liking those high lifes? It's 3.2. And there's like, that's why we're not fucking getting drunk off of it? It's like, yeah, you kind of have to go to the liquor store if you want to get anything above. And they're all going to be closed by now. So, sorry to break the news to you, but I've had to do that to so many out-of-state bands that are way less known than you guys.
Explain to everybody why they're not drunk.
And at least now, we're at 5%, so we're almost normal.
That was like 4.
So finally, in the middle of the conversation, as we're talking to the violin player, the bassist comes up, and he stops him, and he whispers something into his ear. And immediately, the dude just erupts in laughter. And he's just like, oh my God, really? You're going to give these guys shit about bringing a swag, and then you can't even find your weed? Okay, I'll smoke them out. And so the bass player just looks up at us with his tail between his legs, just like, sorry guys, all sheepishly. Luckily, just like us, all of them had their own bag. It just wasn't swag. And it was a joyous time. Support the fucking scene, bitches. Thank you all for listening. Remember to subscribe to this channel, Storytime with Unky Judas.
Damn.